And we are live. Hello everyone, and welcome to another Anthem live stream. My name is Ben Irving. I'm one of the lead producers for Anthem. And joining me today, we have a very special guest, Darrin McPherson. Darrin, would you like to introduce yourself to our amazing fans?
Yeah, hi fans. I'm the producer for gameplay, here to talk about some really cool things.
That's right. So, to that point, today's stream topic is all about loot, gear, and progression. So, we're going to flip over to the game now and look at the Forge. So we've talked about this before. The Forge is split into two core sections. We have loadouts and appearances. We often call that customization and personalization. So personalization is about how you look, your appearance, and customization, or the loadouts, as you see in the UI here, is about your power.
So each javelin has 5 hard points or equipable slots that you're going to have. Those are broken up into different types. So you've got here, so you see weapons, the Colossus-specific heavy assault launcher. The Ranger has a different one. The Storm has a different one. So they have different names. Ordnance launcher is his rear-mounted artillery. Components and support gear.
What other parts are there to progressing your character as you play the game?
Okay, so you just like a normal RPG, you have levels. Your pilot, in this case, it's not an exo level, it's a pilot level.
Right.
So as you progress in your pilot, you unlock certain things. Like for instance, if I want a second weapon, I get that at 4. So I start with a single one, etc. These slots are unlocked, some of them relatively early in the game, and then as you play the game, you'll loot items.
Yep.
Those items have levels on them.
Okay.
Those items also have rarities. So if you're familiar with other RPGs, there's generally common, and so we have common, we have uncommon, we have rare, and then we have epic, and then we have a couple that we'll talk about later. That make up basically our 6 rarity types.
Awesome. So you have a pilot level, and as you increase that, you get more powerful loot. And then rarity scales amongst those levels as well. Okay, cool. So here we have the firewall mortar. Do you want to just explain what are we seeing here and what all these stats mean?
So we have our stat block. This, as it says, is a firewall mortar, so it does fire damage. You can see here the damage is fire. Okay. Yeah, it lays a wall down. Okay. You can see that it's recharge time and fire status. So fire status is sort of a new stat for games like this, which is how quickly do you light someone on fire in this case, or if it were ice status, how quickly do you freeze them, etc. Okay.
So this is a good little segue. So that's important to our combo system.
Yes.
So the idea here is that you would apply a status effect. Once you apply enough of it on a certain creature, it's now primed, and then you could get a gear piece that's a detonator and use that to do a combo. Is that right?
So we have things that apply an effect, and then things that will then create combos when that effect is there.
So this one puts effects on. Is there a way to tell that here?
Yeah, so if you look to the left of Firewall Mortar, the name, there's a little symbol there that happens to look like a flame, but that is our universal icon for this thing will add a
status effects. Right. Okay, cool. Can you explain, there is a thing here that says 0% pickup radius. What is that?
So that's an inscription. Okay. So each item that you get above common rarity, so uncommon and above, will have a number of inscriptions on them. These are stats that will have a random range of values. So this could hypothetically be 5 to 10%.
Right.
You get this item and you get a 7% bonus. Okay, cool, that's good. There's over 100 actual different descriptions you can get on an item, broken up into a few pools for us to organize and balance. So on some of them you're going to get extra damage stats, on some of them you're going to get secondary utility, things like that.
Yeah. So just to clarify for everyone watching, that would mean every time you get a firewall mortar, it does the firewall.
Yep.
That's the thing. It does damage. It applies status effects. But if you get uncommon or higher, you get a random roll, and those things would be different every time. So the core functionality is the same, but all the bonuses are different. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
A means of gaining gear, weapons, components is randomly through killing creatures or defeating objectives, etc.
Yep.
So you can eventually get some of the ability to get some recipes to craft some of these things. Crafting is a good supplement to not. I didn't get the assault rifle I wanted. but maybe I got the recipe, then I can then craft that.
Yep. Cool. I think you just kind of answered that question. The other question we just got here was, will loot be RNG based, or will we'll have specific mission strongholds that, so the answer to that question is just what you said, right? Like for the most part, you go out into the world and you get random loot.
But let me clarify one thing though. The based on your level, you will get more high chance for you to get a better rarity.
Right.
So if I'm level 5, it's really hard for me to get an epic peak. So feasibly could happen. But,
right.
But as I get closer to 20, that will start happening more frequently.
Yeah. And then if you play harder difficulties, harder content, your chance of getting higher rarities will increase.
Right. So if I'm level 30, I'm in a dungeon. That's a really good chance for me to get epic drops. Bigger, better loot.
Can we trade with other players? So our answer to that is no. Like we want this to be about the loot you go out and get yourself. Right. And again, if you end up in a situation where you don't get the things you're like, oh, I really want an assault rifle, and an assault rifle never drops. Then the thing you could do is, to your point, supplement with crafting. So you could find a challenge that rewards an assault rifle blueprint, which is our recipes, and then get the materials and craft that if you really just wanted to have an assault rifle and you were getting unlucky for some reason and not getting your hands on them. We have 2 inscriptions, and before we had 1.
Right.
How does that work?
Yeah, so from common to uncommon, from uncommon to rare, you get an additional inscription, and that number grows up to 4. Well, up to 4.
We'll get
caveating
there.
later rarities.
And all 4 would be random rolls from
random
this
rolls
giant list
from different pools. So as you get an item, you get a weapon at level 20, it'll roll from a primary damage pool. So that primary damage pool is what is going to increase your damage of some kind. As opposed to sometimes I get something that isn't maybe as exciting like pickup radius, but it's still helpful, as opposed to I got a really good one and I got
So like flight time extensions, would that be in that pool?
And depending on your build, that's really flight time extension. We'll see a little later is super valuable.
Or you might decide you want to do speed runs, so having a huge pickup radius is great because you can go through and pick things up.
Let me tell you, playing as a storm with big pickup radius is huge.
To
talk about this one, so this is common. This is the lowest rarity, and here on the side of the railgun on the left side, you see the combo icon. So each one of these,
right? Oh, the detonator.
It's a detonator. Yeah. So each one of the things that does that says this detonates. Detonates a explosive combo.
So if we had used our other piece to put a creature in fire status,
and then you
could use this for a combo effect.
Right.
Here, but then each of the suits have a different effect when they combo.
Yep.
We could cover it real quick, I guess.
Yeah. So the Colossus here has explosive combo, so he does damage to the primary target that has been primed, and then an AoE around it.
Yep.
Right. The Ranger does a high impact single target damage, enormous amounts of damage. The Storm, so if the guy's frozen and he hits him, he not only does damage to that guy, but he chains the ice to other people.
Yep.
And the Interceptor is my favorite. You go in.
You kind of have a favorite child, but continue.
I can. I'm allowed to. They don't talk back to me. They don't get jealous. Well, they might. I don't know. But you hit the prime target with one of your combos, and now you are surrounded by an aura of that element. So then I drag that around and freeze or apply acid.
You can
to
apply that
else.
aura where you move.
Right. Yeah. So we'll dive into the weapons really quick, which have a few different effects. So here's our grenade launcher. Again, heavy weapon. Have we ever covered heavy weapons on these streams?
No.
Okay. So we're doing it now.
Okay, let's
So this is a heavy weapon. Heavy weapons can only be used by the Colossus.
Right.
Which is cool. So there's the grenade launcher and the autocannon, big, massive.
Only for the Colossus.
Only for the Colossus. Here's a marksman. Again, you can be used by anybody. Just so you can see its damage, its optimal range. That's where you're going to do the most damage. If it's farther than that, damage will be lower. And then, of course, it's got inscriptions.
You now have the 3 inscriptions.
Right. Yeah. Are the answer to that. So let me dive into these 2 on this one. There's many, many more that you can get. Components' primary purpose is to allow you to tailor and customize the playstyle that you want. So
what's an example of that?
So an example of this is right here.
Perfect.
All blast damage, which means explosions. There are things that aren't explosive that do blast damage. Yeah. So we're very specific here. Is increased. Now, obviously, percentage, 0% isn't good. We have a bug in there. But if I wanted to focus on doing explosives, I would maybe this is an item I would choose. These also have up to 2 inscriptions on them.
Okay.
So the difference between this explosives expert and another one would be the inscriptions, could be the rarity and the power level of it.
Other ones, are there utility things to focus on?
So there are some utility things. I need more ammo in my. I've got an autocannon. I want more ammo.
Right.
You take the thing that gives you either more ammo for all your weapons, or there's a specific Colossus one that gives you more autocannon ammo, or more ammo for all of your weapons.
One question we get asked a lot is, hey, flight's cool, I love flying, will I be able to extend my flight time?
Oh, yeah.
Is this where you do that?
So you can do this in a couple ways. You can do it here. So you get an inscription that gives you more thruster lifetime.
Right.
Or you get that, and if you roll really well, you get it also as your inscriptions. So your inscriptions give you more thruster. So I can fly for a much longer time or hover for a much longer time if I choose to specialize in that.
Yeah. Cater to both groups.
Yeah. So it's again, components are meant to allow you to very easily customize your play, and it is not very complicated. It can get complicated, but it's to what degree you want to participate in that.
Right.
If I feel like I want more ammo, I'm going to equip the one that gives me more ammo.
On. Yeah.
If I happen to be using an assault rifle because that was the latest drop that I got, and you have the component for assault rifle damage or assault rifle ammo, equip it. Yeah. So they're pretty self-explanatory.
On the other end, it's like, okay, if I have a specific group I want to play with a specific comp, I need to do things, I could get really deep in min-max.
The second one, the overclock regulator, the second one you see here, and that has some obvious benefits to the. I both have my firewall mortar. I have electricity gear pieces that I can do as a Colossus, so that's a pretty good item.
Right.
But when I combine that with other things that boost elemental damage or that do elemental damage, then I begin to have some synergy with additional items. Rarities beyond epic are masterwork and legendary.
Yep. So
a masterwork. Let me go to here. I can't speak and
you have to do things at once.
Two things at once. So a masterwork item is a higher rarity, higher power level than an epic, and also each one comes with a masterwork property.
Okay. Some
special thing that it does over and beyond what its normal things are. So we looked at we can look at the assault, like we look at our assault launcher. You can get a high explosive missile, I think it's called a blast missile in the game, at any rarity. But when you get the masterwork version, it comes with a new orange text.
Right.
So this is an upgraded version of that when you defeat an enemy, an explosion happens, an electric explosion happens.
Okay. So you've got the special property. I then see you've got the 4 inscriptions.
Got 4 inscriptions.
So if I was to get another Argo's mace, the special property would be the same.
Right.
And then the 4 inscriptions will be different.
Yeah,
so
right.
You might want to get multiple Argo's maces to get the perfect combination of inscriptions.
Depending on how
chasing that.
deep you want to go, you'll make or collect as many as you can until you get like javelin blast damage. That's good for me because this does blast damage.
You want to make a blast damage.
I want thruster life, so you'll see. All of this leads to me getting a full build together.
And then above Masterworks is legendaries, which we don't have examples here today.
Right.
But do you want to explain?
Yeah. So take a masterwork item and give it a level upgrade. Same properties, but probably a deeper inscription pool, different inscriptions that it can pull from, and more power. So the same property.
It's like kind of the same but more powerful version. It's like the ultimate chase for the people who will play the game the most and do the hardest content and are the most dedicated. Okay.
It's the big chase item in there.
All right. Can you explain the gear score more?
So each item that you have has a power. You see the power level. Those values added together form your gear score. We use that to say this content is appropriate for someone of your level.
Right. And so you can see in the top right, ours says legendary range. I think that's a bug. It probably should say masterwork range because we're in masterwork. But then, so what? The sum of that
all of my
gear
parts
is
433. So if I were to take some of these items off, you would see that bar go down, and then suddenly I'm now an epic ranger.
Yeah, and as you cross thresholds, you'll go through the rarities.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Awesome. Is inventory space limited? So yes, there is a limit because there has to be, because that's how servers work. It's pretty large though, and so the idea is that you have plenty of space to keep enough of these things that you need for your different loadouts. But you will have to maintain it a little bit. Like in most games, you fill up and you realize that half of it is junk, and
you keep it
go
for a rainy
through
day
and salvage it. Which salvaging in our game is really important because it gives you crafting materials.
Right.
So you'll want to break down the things you're not using or you don't need anymore, and use them to craft stuff. So yes, there is a cap. It's meant to be big enough that you can freely do all this stuff, but there's a limit at some point. Like
our engineers start complaining when it gets too much.
Will blueprints scale with you when
it's a good question.
Unlock them?
So basically, I think the question is, if I get a blueprint at level 5, let's say it. Let's say something crazy happened and I'm level 20 and I get a masterwork blueprint and I create that. You would then create a level 20 version of that.
Right.
And then if you were
level 30,
so it's basically whatever level you are, you'll
so you
craft
create
it
the
at that.
same one.
You don't need
it would
a new
be
recipe.
Level 31.
Yeah, you don't need a new recipe.
Okay.
There's not level.
So the recipe, it gets created for the current level when you craft it.
Yes, right.
Is there a way to re-roll inscriptions?
The method for re-rolling inscriptions is to recraft the item.
Okay, so if you're crafting an item, you craft lots of it and to get the inscriptions you want. If you just got an item, the answer is to go out and get the item again.
Right.
So you can't re-roll except for crafting. Okay.
But, so I hover, I do explosive damage.
Yep.
I do ultimates as much as possible. That's the 3 key pieces.
Right. So let's explain how that works.
Okay. So we'll start with the components, which are, for this build, the most important thing. Now I want to be super clear here. I'm focused on explosions, which are coming from gear.
Right.
But the other build that I was
playing with
was an impact build, which would have been focused on weapons.
Weapons,
and then I have gear that actually does impact damage as well. So it's the opposite of an AE.
So I guess the point there is there are lots of different builds you can make, and I think the players will come up with many that we never even thought of.
I hope so.
This is just one example to show kind of the depth and the kind of choices you'll have as you're doing this yourselves.
When I defeat an enemy with the left bumper,
right bumper.
With my right bumper, my left bumper gets more damage.
Okay, so
in my case, it happens to be a high explosive blast missile and a grenade, both of which do explosive damage.
Right. So you defeat an enemy with the missile, then when you throw your grenades, you're doing 50% extra damage.
Yes.
Okay. That's
if
amazing.
I time it, it requires some timing, so there's some skill involved here.
Right. Absolutely.
Which is good. Let's look at this guy. So this is my my blast missile. Electric explosion when I defeat an enemy. So I want to do more explosive damage as much as I can. This allows me to do that.
So you also had, when you defeat an enemy, your grenades get more damage, but also when you defeat an enemy, it does bonus damage as well.
Yeah.
So you're like defeating an enemy, explosion damage, and bonus grenade damage.
So I want to do as much damage as
possible. So
possible.
it starts all stacking up into, exactly. Okay.
Now, I've also got thruster life here, because so while I'm hovering, I get Raptor Sense, which gives me extra weak point damage. So while not vital to my build, is an extra perk while I'm hovering, because I'm already hovering.
It's incentivizing hovering. So if you didn't manage to defeat an enemy, you could clean them up pretty easily with the bonus weak point damage. I hover. I'm getting reduced gear cooldowns by half.
Yes.
And weak point damage. I defeat an enemy with my missile.
Right.
It does bonus explosion damage, and it makes my grenades do 50% more damage for 3 seconds. If I use my grenade and get a 2-person multi-kill, it'll regenerate my shields. If I get a 3-person multi-kill, it will fill my ultimate meter faster.
You got those numbers reversed, but yes.
But okay, for fast. So after I do all of that, can you load up into the thing? That's okay. So after I do all of that, if my ultimate's filled up, I use my ultimate. That increases all of my gear by, I can't remember the number now. It was 50% or something.
Yep.
Which at that point, my gear cooldowns are so low, they're probably refreshed, and I'm doing it all over again.
It's ludicrous.
That's ridiculous. Okay. And so on that, at launch, there'll be 3 difficulties as you play through the crit path and also get towards max level.
Right.
We've showed them, I think, it's Lancer, Freelancer, Master. And then there'll be 3 more difficulties available at launch once you unlock them that are Grandmaster 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
And that's where I think this kind of stuff comes into play. But also by doing that harder content, you get a higher chance of getting these more rare items like Masterworks and things like that.
Right.
Let's say there is a legendary gun called the Exploder. Is there going to be only one version of that gun with fixed stats, or can we find an infinite version of the same gun with better rolls on the stats so that we don't end up with the same builds?
Yeah, so as we said, if the exploder is a masterwork,
That
legendary,
explodes, let's say.
that its orange property, the orange property that it has, will always be the same on the exploder.
Right.
But the infusions on it will be different.
Right.
So because there's a wide variety of builds, multiple builds could use the exploder, and depending on what build I use the exploder in, I may want different stats. So it's perfect for me if it's got thruster on it, so that I can hover more.
Right.
But if I'm not hover based, if I'm melee based,
then
I don't care about it. Right.
All right. So we're gonna.
So I think it's about 12 seconds. So you
see
see
in
the
the-
little bar raise. Now watch what happens when I hover.
Yeah, it's half.
Much faster. Like it's half.
Ridiculous. And
Yeah.
you can see, they're the buffs on the left. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, let me do
I can't
that
remember which
again.
one was which, but
So Raptor's Relief is the cooldown reduction,
Yep.
and Raptor Sense is my weak point.
damage. Yeah.
I chose hard difficulty.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So that we didn't one-shot everything.
And then Darren's actually doing something might maybe subtle here, but he's purposely playing around the water. So as he's overheating, he's coming back and cooling himself faster by playing through the water.
Right.
So there's a lot of there's some environmental things you can do here to help. Do bosses drop unique loot? Like if I hit a stronghold and killed one of those giant gorilla-looking things,
Gorilla.
could I get, I don't know, a crazy quad-barreled shotgun? And I like the creativity in the question.
I have to make that.
So I think we've kind of addressed this, but generally the answer is by playing the game, there are loot tables, and the harder the content you play gives you higher chances of rarity amongst the loot tables. And those loot tables are kind of, if you're playing a ranger, you're more likely to get more ranger gear, or mostly ranger gear. Separately to that, we have a challenge system. So you can think of it as what some other games kind of use achievements as like, but there might be a challenge to be like, hey, go kill the giant gorilla thing 10 times, and on the 10th time you get a specific reward. And so we're trying to work out exactly how we'll kind of mix those challenges in to the rest of the game. But the primary thing will be there are loot tables, and then between crafting and challenges, there'll be some outs to chase certain things. Don't you have Bulwark on?
Oh, do I? Okay, you're right. So this puts a shield around me, so that the projectiles can't get in.
Yep.
It doesn't. It blocks them, which is super handy against wyverns.
Do it.
No, I'm just overheating. Remember? But I can pop it in the air. If I time it incorrectly, I can't.
Yeah, so the Bulwark is, oh nice, you found the ring gate. The Bulwark will prevent projectiles coming in. So if you didn't get set on fire
All
from
the time,
the raptors and shot out of the
Exactly.
sky.
It would have been much more dramatic.
But see, now you're hovering though to get it back faster so we can show it off.
Right.
It's kind of cool.
So they have a long cooldown, but it's shortened when
Yeah.
I'm hovering.
Do inscriptions stack? I assume this
They do.
means if I had 2 plus 5% flight times, would they work together?
They do. Yep, for sure.
They sure do. Like, this build is really about having to defeat a lot of enemies pretty quickly. That's where you get the most value. So then when you fight like an Ursix, like this isn't the best build to go and fight single target, high hit point, high damage.
I can't get
creatures.
those
And that's the
activations
trade-off,
going.
right?
Yep.
Now you could have made a different build that was balanced for that.
And my
or a
impact
that
build
was
would have
just
been great.
focused. Yeah, your impact build would have been perfect for it. It's all about single target damage with weapons. So there's going to be a lot of trade-offs here. And then if you think you're just one player, ideally you have a squad of you and 3 of your best friends. And you're trying to work out the builds that support the whole group, all 4 of you together.
Right.
So you might make a mixture of some people are there to take out the trash, so to speak, the easier to kill creatures, and other people are there to deal with the kind of priority target things, either the apex creatures like the Ursix, or even like a Scar Heavy, things that are harder to defeat.
So,
or probably a better question is, how do enemies scale? Because we've talked about friends of any level can play together. So how would it work?
So the key to making that work is that enemies scale to your pilot level.
Right.
There are things that scale slightly differently, but the creatures,
So the biggest boost you can get, oh man, he's just, the biggest boost you can get is increasing your rarity. Is that right? Like at any
increasing
given
rarity
level
and
range,
item,
increasing rarity
item
would
level
be the best way to get ahead.
Item level and rarity. Yep.
Okay, cool. And then we've talked about this before, but if Darren's level 20 and I'm level 10, we can play together because we'll do, without getting into it, relative damage to the creatures and they'll do relative damage to us, so we can play together. But when Darren has a build like this with all these synergies, he will be more powerful than I will, or he will be able to defeat things faster because he has all these extra synergies and he has a breadth of things available to him. But we can still play together and have a lot of fun. Are there builds that can improve your melee?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So again, I was
of all the choices?
Somebody suggested I actually make a tanky ranger melee build, and I could have done that too.
Yeah,
right. Lots of melee components and things that apply to that. Oh.
So I've seen this a couple of times. Will there be swords or other things? So right now the way it works is each javelin has its own melee ability. So the ranger has the shock mace. It just has the shock mace. There are no other things. We like the idea of maybe somewhere down in the future, like we could do some more stuff, but at launch, everyone kind of has their one thing.
Right.
And that will scale with pilot levels and things like that. What about raids and endgame content? So that's a much longer answer. So a lot of the kind of core loop to the game as you get through the crit path and get towards the end game content is around taking on more challenging and more challenging content at those higher difficulties to get more rewards.
Right.
Then the question says, but hey, like I would like aspirational content. Like it's important to have aspirational content. And so we have some things coming that we're not quite ready to talk about. But as we get into the new year, we'll give some more detail on that. But certainly at launch, there's a lot of content and a lot of difficulty levels and a lot of ways to challenge yourself with you and your friends to try to get these rewards, find out what these amazing builds are, find the builds that are right for you, find the build that's right for you and your group, find the build that's right for you and your group across the 4 javelins, across multiple loadouts. There's really a lot of stuff to chase there and a lot of amazing content to play to do it. But we'll talk about some of that other stuff later. Let's not go through it, but just talk about it. So we talked about pilots and pilot levels, how that works. There's lots of loot in the game. It comes in multiple rarities. As you push through rarities, you get more inscriptions. The inscriptions are random from a big pool of over 100 or about 100 different things. You can combine all of these things together to make unique builds as you get towards the end game and you get some of the higher end rarities, like the build we've shown off today. Within the forge itself, you can equip the 3 gear pieces, the 2 weapons, and then up to 6 components. And all of that as you level unlocks. So at level 1, you have like a weapon and 2 gear pieces. And then at level 4, you get like the 2nd weapon. And at level, I don't remember, 12 or 6, you get the 3rd gear piece, or however it works. And so all that unlocks on your journey to max pilot level.